this understanding of heart knowledge, as you're talking about the conscience and we mentioned intuition and the relationship between those, there's also this knowing of the heart that can begin to come online more and more and more. And this is sort of an innate knowledge that is universal and
Right,
is
right.
non-conceptual, and it has a certainty to it. It has a degree of certainty to it. And this knowing of the heart enables us to take steps with certainty that we could never take on the basis of the mind, that we could never take on the basis of thought or reason or position or anything like that.
Mm.
And that comes down to this sort of willingness to see ourselves as cosmic, because that is a step, the backward step, it has been called, into the field of our own silence. And that the willingness to surrender the smaller sense of me for the larger sense of I, um, really comes from the grace of that knowing of the heart and that willingness to give in to our greatness and to see ourselves as we always, 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 always are. So when that shines forth, what begins to take place is the body and mind now not being our um, only point of reference anymore. It still is
Right,
still here as a point of reference, but it's not our only point of reference, and it's not what we are. It's an aspect of what we are.
right.
Can begin to more clearly reflect that universal value and that cosmic totality in ways that it it couldn't reflect when we felt that that was all that we were. Hmm.
Yes.
So although we can take steps to align, with certain principles, and we can certainly, you know, be loving and kind and generous and patient to a certain degree. I mean, there's always going to be that which uh,
Those
is
moments.
those moments, we might
Those
say, right? Yeah, the residue of the
challenges.
unloving. Yeah, it's not a matter of either or, and I think that the loving and the kindness and the compassion includes to those moments within our experience. So when those things arise, then they're also met with love and understanding and so on and so forth. But that becomes much clearer and easier, we might say,
Mm,
when it's no longer me, and it's
yeah.
it's not confined to that, to being mine in the same way, you might say. So
Maybe
we step,
especially in those moments.
yes,
Yeah.
especially in those moments. Exactly. That's where the love and the openness and the allowing is
Yeah, the
definitely.
value of kind of drawing on your deeper resources
Hmm.
to meet situations that are especially challenging or that expand the individual perception and experience past its normal boundaries and
Mm.
limitations, which is what those moments are really all about. Right. And so
Yes.
that's that time when it being, like you said, openness and, you know, having that confidence you can draw on uh, those sort of deeper, more profound resources like cosmic wisdom
Yeah.
and vast amounts of energy and the I would say the guidance for exactly what needs to purify and how in order to allow a person to navigate through those more difficult experiences and come out the other side shining. Like that royal path that we were
Yes.
talking about, because there's always multiple ways to get through a difficult situation.
Perfect.
Oh,
Yes.
Andrew, I have another story.
Okay. Yes, please.
Okay, so I learned this one when I was like in my 20s, I think. But someone told me this story that it was about a race, and there are three racers, and they all run as fast as they can. They get to the other end. It was a tie. It's a three-way tie. So afterwards, the announcer's like asking, well, so how did it go? So he asked racer number one, and racer number one says, oh, I really don't know. I mean, I just went out. It was just like a cloud of dust. I didn't see anything, but I worked my hardest and I got to the end. I won. And the next person says, well, it was really clear. I saw the goal, I saw where I was going, I went as fast as I could, and I got there. I got there perfect. And then the last racer has like some other vision of how it went. Well, I wasn't sure, and it looked like the other guy was ahead of me for a while, but then I finally caught up, and I finally got there at the end. And so there's like these are three different visions of how we get from point A to point B. And we have a choice. I think the moral of the story is we have a choice of how we want to run a race.
Mm-hmm.
Do we just want to run it like blind? Like we don't know where we're going, we don't know what's happening, it's just a cloud of dust, or do we want to run it like with it being a struggle the whole way? I'm doing it, but it's wearing on me. I feel like I died a little bit inside, just to get through that race. Or do we want to just be just like, just I saw the goal and I was there. Right?
Yeah, that's a beautiful point. And just to kind of clarify on that, it doesn't necessarily mean that in blindness, we don't think that we know where we're going. Because a lot of people think, oh, I know what I'm, doing with my life, and I know where I'm headed, and I know my direction. But actually, there's a lot of blindness in that. And it's just what the intention underlying it, if it's for our own gain and our own self-image and all these different things, which these are not wrong things. We all have these tendencies within us to some degree, but they don't have to dominate our awareness. There's another possibility. So we look at this understanding of the highest potential and see that really it comes down to something more than the person, more than the personal. Our highest potential always has been for us to give ourselves to something beyond our limited sense of self. That's what the great masters have always told us throughout the centuries. It's without exception. It has always been that way.
It's so beautiful.
And, and
suppose we defined highest potential then.
Yes, that's
divine union. Like we all have individual goals, right? They're all
yes.
small goals. Like, I'd like to have a good
Sure.
job. I'd like to make a family, maybe a nice house, something. But over and above all those, the underlying intention, the intention that feeds all those smaller intentions, is that intention of the divine.
Yes.
To be completely expressed.
Yes.
In this relative field, and through the physiology and through the mind and emotions and thoughts and words and everything.
Yeah, that's it. And for divinity to realize itself within conscious awareness, within its own mind, for us to be clear
in the body, right? Also,
in the body as not just a small body, but as an infinite body, as a cosmic body, as a divine body. There's all these different layers and subtleties within our potential that is here. It's here within all of us, and for particularly those that are drawn to listen to something such as this. So in terms of defining our highest potential on that level, it is the realization of our divinity realizing its truth within its own field of cosmic light. And in that, then more clearly reflecting and revealing itself through the individuality, through the individuated appearance of the body and mind. So there's this understanding in the Buddhist tradition called the spontaneous perfection of meritorious qualities.
Ooh.
And it's said that all meritorious qualities are already inherent in the Buddha nature. They're already inherent in this field of light that is ourself. So it's not the spontaneous perfection of these qualities is not a matter of us doing something a certain way necessarily, but seeing ourselves as we are. And in seeing ourselves as we are more and more and more clearly, that beginning to express itself into the outward appearance in the way in which the body and mind is presenting itself within this field of activity. So that's the spontaneous perfection of these meritorious qualities, these qualities of virtue that are in alignment with those ideals and with the dharmic interconnectedness of life, because that knowledge, that self, that knowledge is already in the self. It is the self. And through tuning into the knowledge of ourself, we tune into that knowledge of alignment and the possibilities of sort of spontaneously knowing
So
what is
Andrew,
appropriate. Yeah.
what I'm hearing from you is that on the path, as a person is moving through this path of self-development, then what it means is, rather than trying to go out and say, well, I should do this, I should, have a certain lifestyle or have a certain diet or follow these rules. I should follow all these rules in order to be, meritorious.
Yes.
But instead, what happens is the rules and regulations are there more like signposts,
Mm-hmm.
that as the consciousness evolves and the individual becomes more and more realized, they pass a signpost of like, oh, I see, it's really good to maintain like a regular rest routine,
Mm-hmm.
or it's really good to maintain a pure diet or something, rather than, like, in other words, the path isn't about trying to force oneself to follow certain rules. It's more about turning inside and self-developing, and then finding as you're going along, oh yes, and these are the rules. And it turns out, look, you just passed that signpost. Oh, look, now you
Yes.
passed the next one. Something like that. So
Yes. Yeah.
you use
There's a
guides, but you can't use them to force behavior.
yes. Yeah. I mean, they serve a certain function, and
Right.
but at a different point, they become a limitation. So it's
It becomes
about
a limitation if a person feels they have to like force
correct. Yeah.
themselves
It's
into
like
it in order to get enlightened.
yes, yes. I mean, you've met those that it's like, oh, I'm trying to be sattvic, eat
There's
sattvic food,
training.
do sattvic things, do, whatever. It's like that's such a constricting approach.
Yeah.
Rather than, this understanding of surrender and allowing and receiving and recognizing that there's, it's not something we can just read in a book and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. These are the outlines and boom. That it's something that's custom fit. It's something that, at any given moment, today it could be, eat a little bit more of this, tomorrow eat a little bit less, whatever the case may be. And it's something that feel is supported. It's something that has that support, has that nurturing value, has that sense of direction, and comes also more and more with that knowing of the heart. So it's these steps are being taken in certainty. And that certainty is the foundation of the expression of truth, the embodiment of truth, the realization of truth. And that's what enables us to really tune into our highest potential, is being grounded and founded in that truth. Because otherwise we sort of are in that doubtful, place, and it's so focused on the particulars that it misses the general. Not to say that we can't appreciate the details, as your beautiful point was made earlier. That's very, very important. But that our ability to truly appreciate the details comes from our resting and seeing ourselves in the broadness of existence.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, that definitely ties back into this idea that when the focus is to be in ever greater alignment with one's own divine nature,
Mm-hmm.
and the center of awareness is sort of, the awareness centers around like long-term goals, that long-term goal, then choices that are made are better aligned with setting your own self up for
Mm.
more success and more success and more success as you move into the future, rather than that sort of short-term sense of, I'm just going to do whatever right now. They say I should eat this kind of a diet. Okay, well, I'll eat that kind of a diet. That's kind of like very sort of short-term thinking. And
Mm-hmm.
that it's good to, when this, we could say, when we've integrated that cosmic perspective with the individual perspective. So some, I'd say, increase of stability and flexibility in the nervous system is required
Mm-hmm.
in order to support being able to be in the here and now, be very present, but then also be tuned into that cosmic long time frame. geological time frames, the really big ones, so that whatever's going on right now is also serving and supported by these bigger flows that are naturally happening throughout the entire cosmos.
Mm.
And that, I think that's perhaps that level of stability and adaptability of the nervous system is what also gives rise to a sense of inner peace and certainty, like, oh, that I am, where I am right now is just right.